All right, family. We black again with the general. Y'all know we got that fire today. We're gonna be talking about the mounds of North America are an extension of the African Olmec culture. It's a powerful piece, family. We got to look at it and see the greatness of our people coming from the south, moving north, coming across the waters with with such navigational skills, maritime skills beyond any other people on the planet for thousands and thousands of years. Before we get started, I want you to check out my Patreon. Over 500 uh, fire breathing presentations over there, family. Guaranteed to blow the mind. Check it out. The link is at the top of the chat. Also, kingseti.com online marketplace. You already know official General SETI products, t-shirts, hoodies, African and Kemetic jewelry, DVDs. Check out the 24-hour live streams on General SETI, Sarah Soon SETI, and through the make sure you check out our memberships. You get access to exclusive videos, and make sure you get this video a thumbs up, like it because you love it. Share it with your family and friends and comment. Just don't say nothing stupid because you will get banned. And so, what am I doing today? When we talk about I'm trying to connect the dots. We're trying to connect the dots. We're trying to say that, we had a global African supremacy on this planet, that the globe was interconnected tens of thousands of years ago. A lot of people believe that, uh, you know, our people couldn't come across the water, which has been proven to be not true. It's hard for me to believe that, people could see these pyramids in the sand. You know what I'm saying? Over 2 million blocks, megalithic blocks, and they can't believe people can come across the ocean. I mean, what's greater, a voyage across the Atlantic or the goddamn pyramids? You see? So what we do, we get into this mental box where we look at the pyramids and we see, they're so dynamic and so mind blowing. We'll believe that aliens built the pyramids, but the people who built, and then we'll turn around and act like they can't build a goddamn boat to come across the water. That don't make no sense. If these people, we have to understand that the level of ingenuity of our people was equal on every subject, was equal with the architectural genius that you see in the pyramids. It was equal. The medicine, the science, all of that was on par with the technological advancement of the pyramids, even the shipbuilding. Cause shit, they was moving tons of granite up and down. And you talking about from some areas damn near 800 miles. They moving tons and tons of granite. You see, so this is a highly advanced society that it's hard for some damn nations today to duplicate, the movement of that type of granite. You see what I'm saying? Everybody can't do that. Even to this day, they can't do it. So we have to be clear. And so, when you look at the Olmec pyramids, you have to understand that there is it's a technique that they built first with mounds, and then they would come on the outside of the mound with some stone, you see, to dress it up. And so, you got the mound, you got the oldest Olmec pyramid was at Levanta. The stones is no longer around the pyramid, but they outside. I believe, the locals had removed some of the stone and to build other structures. That's what they did. But I believe some of the stones is still on the outside of the mound. Some of them, when I was there, they wouldn't allow you to go over there. You see, they had it, and I ain't no telling why, but they wouldn't even allow you to go over there, for some reason. I think they didn't opened it up a little bit now where you could go over there. Probably charging you extra to go over there. But anyway, so when you look at the mound and what a lot of people don't know that it was probably stone around a lot of these mounds up here in North America. They were stone. They removed the stone because they used the stone to build other shit with. That's really what happened. They destroyed the mounds by removing the outer casing of the pyramid or the mound and use it for other structures. Okay, so when you look at the mound that's left from the Olmec pyramid, you see it's no different than a mound right here in North America. No different. No fucking different. It's the same structure. So what they don't want people to know is the Olmecs, the African Olmec, and you got to also trace uh those currents in that ocean, that Atlantic Ocean, because that one current they call the North Atlantic current is one of the strongest currents in the world, and it'll bring you straight from Africa into the Gulf of Mexico, America, whichever one you go, it'll bring you straight in, and it'll loop and bring you up out of the Gulf of Mexico into what they call the Gulf Stream, which is another powerful current that'll shoot your ass straight towards Europe. But you can come out of there and turn and go back to Africa. It's all kind of currents, and they like conveyor belts. All you had to do was get on that motherfucker, and it's gonna shoot you right into the Gulf of Mexico. This is just a fact. This is just a fact. Bring you right into the Gulf of Mexico. Okay, and this is and so bringing that technology with them, but from the Nile Valley. Because once you understand, you know, the global system, that just today, the Western system is the global system. That's just what it is. When you look at the downtown skyline, New York and Chicago was the first cities with skyscrapers like today. It was ancient skyscrapers, but we talking about the modern skyscraper. So New York and Chicago were preeminent in skyscraper buildings, and they dominated pretty much for most of the 20th century. Dominated it, but now other nations are now even building taller than the goddamn United States. But when you look at the skyscrapers in China, in Japan, in India, they all built on the format of New York and Chicago, Hong Kong. They emulated New York and Chicago. So when you look at today, even though they got traditional structures, China, the older pagoda type structure, Japan, the older materials and shit. They was living in very, you talking about bamboo and shit, things of that nature. They didn't have no coarse structures like that. They didn't have, they had tall pagodas. You see what I'm saying? But that's a pagoda. They didn't have skyscrapers, 30 and 40 and 50 and 60, floor skyscrapers. You see, they didn't have that. So that's Western. So you had to understand the highways and shit that you see in the modern cities. They didn't have highways. Highways is new to a lot of these areas. They didn't have that come with automobiles. You see what I'm saying? Many of them didn't have automobiles yet. You see, they didn't have them. They were still on wagons and shit and things of that nature. So now today, they didn't blew the United States out. They didn't blew the United States out. Some of China and goddamn Japan, Hong Kong, they far more advanced than a lot of cities in the United States. That's just a fact. You know, they didn't blew their ass out the water. Now but the format is so when you look at the format of the global world in the ancient, it was formatted based on ancient Egypt. That's how it was formatted. It was the United States, and it was greater than United, but it was the United States of its day where everybody emulated Egypt. You see what I'm saying? To a large degree, where they built pyramid style, and I showed people even the mathematics, the blueprints or the temples is the same. When you look at the Greek temple, you look at the Roman temple. I showed that Dr. Ben was the first one showing that. See, this is where Dr. Ben is above motherfuckers. Motherfuckers just don't know. Dr. Ben, you go into Dr. Ben's book and he'll show you the layout of the temples. He's showing you where the Holy of Holies is. He giving you the geometric dimensions of the temple. You see, and when you look at the geometric dimensions of the Egyptian temple, is the same as the Masonic lodge. It's the same as the cathedral. It's the same as the mosque. Even though the mosque is, you got the dome, and when you get inside of it and you look at the floor plan, it is the same across the board. It's the same across the goddamn board. So the Roman temple, the Greek temple, the Hindu temple, I show people the Hindu temple, many of the West African mosque is built on the Egyptian geometrical Masonic layout of the Egyptian temple. That's just a fact. That's another one that kills motherfuckers because it's nothing, it's mathematical. You can't get around that. You can't fucking get around that. You see? And so when you look at, the pyramid field, Teotihuacan got 3 pyramids like the Giza pyramid aligned to Orion. How did they do that? Unless they was in Egypt or the Egyptian, but it's no other way. So it's like when you look at skyscrapers today, it's like you trying to pretend like, you see the Burj Khalifa in Dubai, you acting like it just sprung up out of nowhere. You see? It didn't spring up out of nowhere. A lot of people don't know that the ark and the Burj Khalifa is the tallest skyscraper in the world. But a lot of people don't understand that was built by architects from Chicago. It was architects from Chicago that built the Burj Khalifa and many other skyscrapers in Asia. Nah, they got their own architects today. They didn't developed to where now they don't, but they still using Western architect because it's a architecture. They building that building over in Saudi Arabia. It's gonna be the tallest building in the world. It's gonna surpass the Burj Khalifa. It's gonna surpass the Burj Khalifa. And the architectural firm that's building that building is from Chicago. So just because you see, you got to have, you can't just up and come up with that kind of knowledge. I looked up how many different technologies go into building a skyscraper. It'll blow your goddamn mind. How many different sciences and technologies it takes to build a fucking skyscraper, man. You see what I'm saying? You talking about 30, 40 other advanced sciences that got to come together to put it there. So you not just going to up and come up with no motherfucking skyscraper. It's just not going to happen. Just like you ain't going to come up with no goddamn pyramid like in the ancient. It's no different. Either you went to school or they came and built it for you. So people look at the Burj Khalifa and they think, that, in matter of fact, the architects from Chicago that built the Burj Khalifa, they went to East Asia to get their workforce. So they didn't even use They didn't even use people from Dubai. It was a little uproar about that. The fact that they didn't even use a workforce from Dubai. They went to East Asia because they already had experience in building skyscrapers. You see what I'm saying? So that's crazy that the architectural firm was from Chicago. The workforce was from East Asia, but the building is in Dubai. So motherfuckers who don't know that, they'll think that the people of Dubai built, they didn't have a fucking thing to do with that fucking skyscraper at all. They didn't have a fucking thing to do with it. So it comes down, either you got the knowledge or you don't. You see what I'm saying? And the only way it's gonna get built if somebody that in the universities of science and technology, that and you're gonna have to have architectural firms. Ain't no one motherfucker. You're gonna have to have, you got to have skilled laborers. You see, that know how to do this shit. You can't get no regular motherfucker to get up on no, and you up 40, 50, and then some of these motherfucking buildings they building today, they like, man, do you know how many stories these motherfuckers is? The Burj Khalifa is over 100, man. Man, you talking about 120 stories, even higher than that. You understand? You talking about so high in the fucking sky, you literally in the clouds. You see? And so you got to be able to work up there. You see? You got to be able to work up there. So when you talking about the ancient world, man, you talk about Teotihuacan and things of that nature, man. Those architects came from the Nile Valley, no different than architects of today. Because you got to think, man, when you talk about the Olmec heads, they had the quarry that I think I think it was basalt. Think the it was basalt that they used for the Olmec heads, but they had to quarry that basalt, man, like 60 miles into the mountains and shit. They dragged it down and shit, but they got, you had to have rollers and shit. You know what I'm saying? But how do you think they came up with that? They was already using that, where they put rollers up under shit and they roll it, and then they take, you take one of the rollers from the back as you rolling it, and they put it up under the front, and they keep pulling it and take it from the back and pull it, and you keep pulling it on the rollers, and they roll and shit. You see what I'm saying? But that's a technology that came, that had been used in Africa for a very long time. You see, that had been used in the level of sophistication of the Olmec heads, how sophisticated the features was, man. That's thousands of years of advancement. You ain't just gonna up and come up with no shit like that. What schools did you go to learn how? Because that's how you gain knowledge today. You do not just pop up with that. You have to go to university. Africa was the university system in the world, in the ancient world, for you to go and learn that kind of technology, because it take thousands of years. You're not gonna do it in no one generation. You're not gonna do it in one generation. That's impossible. You see, and so the thing is with the Olmec heads is that, they just came out of nowhere. It wasn't no development. When they appeared, they was already at an advanced state. That means they came from somewhere else. The development took place somewhere else. You see, the Olmecs is the oldest, and when they pop out on the scene, they just like Egypt. You see, they went to Karnak. That's right. Why set? You understand what I'm saying? The Olmecs is damn near like Egypt. They came out damn near fully developed. You see, in the earliest periods is where you find the stone heads at. So you don't find no real development stages of the Olmecs. They come, they just like Egypt. They appeared fully blown. The only way you can appear fully blown, that means your source of knowledge was from somewhere else. When you showed up, you were already fully developed. That's it. Ain't no other way to explain that. You ain't gonna be carving no heads like that. I don't give a fuck. You're not gonna do it in 10 generations. You're not gonna. It takes it'll take 100 generations to develop that type of science, the tools to be able to cut. Goddamn, with that sophistication. You see, yeah, ain't no other place for them to have shit. Egypt is the only place in the ancient world that carved megalithic structures, buildings. You understand? For 3,000 years straight, everybody else got a wall, got one temple, got one of this, one of that. Egypt got, people don't understand, Egypt got thousands of megalithic structures. They built megalithically from the first dynasty to the last dynasty. Many of them temples over in Egypt today, many of them temples was built shit in the Ptolemaic era. Shit, it was still African architects that built them, but many of them temples over there many of them was built during the Ptolemaic era. You see, and then you can go and you got the you got shit from the damn beast. You got shit from the second dynasty and third dynasty still standing. Megalithic. So Egypt built megalithically for 3,000 years without a break. Everybody else got, so we got to make this shit make sense. We got to make this shit make sense. You see, so when you see megalithic, advanced, especially if it's advanced, meaning like the Olmecs, where you cutting features in the stone. You understand? You talking about some of them damn heads weigh like 50 fucking tons, and you carving into the damn stone with that type of advanced skill, what type of tools you had to have. You got to, when you talk about, you got to think about the tools. You got to develop, tools to fucking cut into that stone like that. And where you could get that fine of eyelids and lips and shit and to a perfection like that, man, that's incredible, man. The only place that you could go to school and learn that type of advancement was in the Nile Valley. That's just a fact. That's just a fact. So, and so many other things that align with that people just don't want to talk about. That the fact that they got fucking, not only do they got pyramids, that the inside, I show people don't, and people don't debate me because I show a motherfucker what it is. When you look inside of the Pacal's pyramid, you can see the L shape, and I showed that the L-shaped stairway in that motherfucker. And you can go into the Giza pyramid in the same L-shaped stairway that lead down into the interior of the damn pyramid with the king's burial chamber deep inside the pyramid. It's exact. It's exact. And then you get down in the pyramid and you got a sarcophagus, a stone sarcophagus down in this motherfucker. You see what I'm saying? With hieroglyphics. This is Pacal's pyramid. I say, damn, this shit is amazing. That people's is playing games with this shit. You see, no different than New York and Chicago being which most cities in the ancient in the modern time, they use New York and Chicago as the model in how to build these cities all over the world. That's what they use. You see, that's what they use, New York and Chicago. And so it's no different in the ancient world that most of the temples, even fucking India, those are Egyptian temples. Those are Egyptian temples, period. You see the venemas made out of pyramids, the temple in front. I done broke this shit down and I had to show you again and again and again. It's the same design. It's no getting away from that. But anyway, family, we have to understand ultimately what I'm gonna end with is that Gulf, because that's where you sailed in from Africa. The North Atlantic current go right up into the Gulf of Mexico, America, whichever one you want to call. I call it the Gulf of Olmeca. You see, They could have used machinery. They could have used machinery. They could have used machinery. You know what I'm saying? Most definitely. You know, they had to master they had to master them precious stones, because with any machinery, even with machinery, you gonna have to have diamond, even on a lot of them drills, them motherfucker had them industrial diamonds on that motherfucker. So they had, because they mastered the earth and they knew, I was, when I was going to school, I had to take geology, and we had to, we would have to learn the hardness of the different stones and shit. You know what I'm saying? Which ones was the hardest and shit. And just that. And once you learn whatever stone you fucking cutting, you understand what I'm saying? You know the different stones that's harder than that stone. You see? And so, and you got to know what stone you need, even though it's hard, it might split that motherfucker. You see what I'm saying? So you have to know how to, get the right stone where you can cut it, and you got to have a type of rock where that shit is willing to give a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Where you can cut into it without cracking that motherfucker. So they knew all of that. They knew all of that. And so thank you, family, for being here. I'm glad we was able to get through these. You had to know what tools. You had to. You see what I'm saying? You had to know the hardness of the stones and the different tools. But anyway, I appreciate y'all family being in here with the general. We're gonna get busy a little later today. We had a nice, conversation on all the videos. I appreciate y'all. Check me out, Patreon. You know what it is. This is the general saying, hey, arm yourself with knowledge. Get over there at kingseti.com. Check out them 24-hour live streams, and I'll see y'all a little later. Boom. Black Power.